Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network. Hi, this is Amit Doshi, and I wanted to thank each and every one of our listeners. It's been 2 years since I founded IVM, and it's been an amazing 2 years. We wanted to learn a little bit more about who is listening to our shows, and so we put together a short survey. The survey is anonymous, and we aren't going to be collecting any personal information. I would really appreciate it if you could take a couple of minutes out of your day and go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and fill it out. Thanks, and please keep listening.
Hello and welcome to Simblified, the only shining beacon of hope and esoteric information in an otherwise bleak and scary world.
Or our attempt at reading Wikipedia articles aloud, one at a time, and calling it a podcast.
Citation needed.
To dive right into what is going to be an interesting, if slightly unsettling subject, do you guys know what entomophagy is?
I don't know, but I would say maybe a bunch of idiots who run an anti-gay rights movement, end homophagy.
Oh my god.
It sounds like some kind of affliction which causes your toes and fingers and nails or something to fall.
Not exactly, Naren, but you're kinda in the ballpark of the horrifying that this can be. So, entomophagy has Greek origins, as is true with most words in the pilfering thief that is the English language. Entomon.
Or the English Empire itself, actually.
Yeah. Entomon is Greek for insect and phagian means to eat. Entomophagy.
I know. Oh, no, eating insects.
Yes, it is exactly the human use of insects as food. Or alternately, eating cockroaches off walls for the lulls.
Wow.
But insects have been a regular part of the diet on every continent in the world. Over 3,000 ethnic groups practice entomophagy, with the Food and Agriculture Organization recognizing over 1,900 species as edible.
1,900 species of insects. That
Wow.
itself is like, wow.
But then why do the majority of us go ew instead of yum when it goes to insects?
That's just a Western world and the subsequent outlook. There are about an estimated 2 billion insect consumers worldwide. That's just under a third of the world's population. There are a large number of cultures that embrace the eating of insects. The species include 235 butterflies and moths, 344 beetles, 313 ants, bees and wasps, 239 grasshoppers, crickets and cockroaches, 39 termites and 20 dragonflies.
Wow, that's almost as many bugs as Apple Maps had when it launched.
Speaking of misleading information, everyone in the so-called civilized world already eats quite a lot of bugs. Canned fruit juices are allowed up to 1 maggot per 250 ml. So that's, please take note. Curry powder is allowed up to 100 insect fragments, head, body, legs per 25 grams. And chopped dates are allowed up to 10 whole dead insects. When we here on Simplified did that microbrewery episode, we gave all kinds of information on the process. But there was one choice nugget that we didn't really reveal. The acceptable limit of insect infestation in hops, the flavoring agent for beer, is 2,500 aphids or plant lice per 10 grams.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is a little terrifying and unsettling. But then again, there are a whole bunch of myths on what is gross or not. Like, it's considered unthinkable to share toothbrushes, but perfectly fine to share earphones, which is almost as bad with all the bacteria that's transmitted, right?
Exactly. And the bugs are nutritious. Insects actually have high fat, protein, vitamin, fiber and mineral content that is often comparable to fish or livestock. Termites are surprisingly protein rich. One species found in Venezuela is 64% protein.
Whoa.
Some insects are even as much as 80% protein by weight.
Wow.
That's spectacularly high, right?
Yeah,
More than
Compared
whey,
to
dude.
meat, yeah.
Forget meat, that's more than whey protein.
I know, man. Yeah.
And insects are also rich in essential amino acids and omega-3 fatty acids. Mealworms contain as much unsaturated omega-3 and 6 fatty acids as fish, and even more than beef and pork.
Wow.
Some are also surprisingly high in iron. Locusts contain up to 20 milligrams per 100 grams of iron, and mopane caterpillars contain a mighty 31 milligrams per 100 grams, whereas beef only contains 6 milligrams per 100 grams.
Tell me you know all these facts off the back of your head.
Of course, yeah.
Who doesn't know how much iron
and
content
anyway,
is
I
there?
have Wikipedia tattooed to the back of my head, so therefore it is there.
All of it?
Some part.
Isn't it horrible how it always works out that things that look and taste terrible are always great for you? Why can't ice cream be good for you? Or bacon for that matter? Huh? Some life-altering amino acid or scotch having some form of ethanol that makes you immune from... It has to be worm. What?
I mean, it's always... Yeah, it always has to be something disgusting. And conversely, like something that looks in... Like, for example, petrol. Like, you would always... If, say, someone comes and tells you that, now petrol is edible. You would be like, I wouldn't mind guzzling down a gallon of that. Like, it's fine. I think it is an acquired taste. We can do that. But no, petrol has to be like, oh God, you drink it and set fire to yourself kind of scenario. But otherwise, everything else is like... Also, while worms are good for you, they are also great for the environment. Insects are cold-blooded and thus require less energy to maintain their internal body temperature. This means that they are very efficient in converting feed into edible body mass, unlike cattle.
Yeah, we're famously inefficient in terms of converting grass into edible meat.
Exactly.
So the main insect that can be the most nutritious and no wonder is the most unpopular in the West is cricket. Crickets actually. I wonder if they're regulated by the BCCI as well actually.
Guaranteed Srinivas will make all of them yellow and call them Chennai Super Pugs.
I mean, crickets require around 2 kg of feed to produce 1 kg of meat, which is around 80% edible. Cattle, on the other hand, require 8 kg to produce the same amount of meat, but only 40% of the cow can be consumed. This means that less land needs to be dedicated for growing feed for insects than for livestock, reducing irrigation and pesticide use.
Also, the farmland covers 30% of our planet, with most of it being used to rear cattle. Insect farming, on the other hand, can be done in labs.
I can almost imagine the conversation. This beaker has sulfuric acid. This one has ammonium nitrate, and that one has lunch. Oh, termites are the garnishing of caterpillar hair.
Also, with cattle farming, there is a minor problem of bovine flatulence, commonly known as...
Cow farting.
Of course. Which is the leading source of greenhouse emissions. Farm animals fart so much methane that it contributes up to 18% of all greenhouse gases.
18?
I don't think this little fact is very widely known, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know it.
I mean, 18%, it's actually more...
I'd always say it's cars or whatever evil technology.
Funnily
but
enough,
cattle.
Yeah, cattle. The 18% is more than cars, trucks, planes and all other forms of transportation put together.
Wow.
It's like you could go up to calf and say, your mama farted so bad she put a hole in the ozone layer, and actually be scientifically accurate about it.
Yeah, I mean, whereas the amount of ammonia produced by farmed insects is a fraction of what farm animals produce.
But insects taste horrible, don't they? We've all had the occasional insect fly into our mouth and they're very disgusting.
Yeah,
I've swallowed flies once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, those may narrate to some extent, but properly farmed insects have a variety of very desirable tastes. Some termites in Africa have a pleasantly minty flavor.
Indeed.
Grasshoppers are often served in Mexico, roasted in garlic and chili.
I've seen them in Thailand too. They sell them on the road.
Yeah, they're very famous over there.
And stink bugs may have a foul odor, but they may actually taste like apples.
Wow.
And for more capsicinously inclined people like you, Chuck, red agave worms are meant to be spicy. And tree worms supposedly taste a bit like pork rind.
Wow. And with the flavors people add to things, I'm sure we could have wasabi flies or, I don't know, teriyaki termites or something. Yeah.
So the famous 1965 tour of America by a popular Liverpudlian band would be commemorated in every shady Indian bar with the dish Beetle 65.
Well played. Well played indeed.
Thank you.
I mean, this is like more edible bug flavors, which are sago grubs, are eaten across Southeast Asia, taste like bacon. And the Yumly article that referenced them gave this helpful tip. Hear me out here.
Yes.
If you fancy trying them raw, they recommend removing the head, as they have sharp little pincers that are not afraid to give you a nip.
Wow. Cracked has a great phrase describing people unafraid of doing things casually. People need an extra casket when they die to bury their balls separately.
Yeah, I mean, this may be too far for some people, but if you fancy trying scorpions in China, don't worry, cooking them destroys their venom. They have a slightly fishy taste. Apparently, tarantulas, which you can find cooked up in Cambodia and Venezuela, sometimes taste like crab or shrimp. But some others have reported they taste like chicken. And the disgusting-looking water bug is said to taste like salted banana or melon.
Whoa, let's just take it a little slow then, shall we? Maybe a tiny cricket or fruit fly or something before we become fellows and literally eat anything that moves.
Yeah, and before we settle into our bug munching utopia, should we just take a little break, Chuck?
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah, while
We
we
need to
all
digest.
go and try and throw up a little. One throw up break. Wow.
Who's ahead in the league and what's cooking off the pitch? We at TFG bring all that you need to know about Indian football. Discussions, debate, banter, in-depth analysis with a touch of fun and fandom. This is the TFG Indian Football Podcast and we're a daily show. So check us out on YouTube and various other podcasting apps like iTunes, Audioboom, SoundCloud, etc.
And we're back to Simblified.
Yeah.
And we were pretty much deep into our, burrowing deep into our insect utopia, which is, and here we finally were talking about all the great things that insects can do for you and as they can be as great diet. But there are a few drawbacks to what we can call insect husbandry.
And we are not going to make the obvious joke with husbandry, so let's move on. We're more involved.
And so, yeah, I mean, considering that we are eating insects after all, they need to be cleaned and stored properly. Otherwise, they can be host to bacteria, which can cause serious food poisoning.
Also sounds like an Asterix character. Forget wanting to throw up when you eat bugs. Like, you may have serious trouble keeping them from exploding violently from the other orifice.
Yeah, and toxicity is another problem. Large-scale pesticides make some bugs absorb the toxin within their bodies, which can cause serious health problems for those eating them.
Oh, I suppose this is way more serious than it appears. Yes.
In fact, it's actually part of the larger thing where, I mean, for insect husbandry to really take off, we will have to drastically cut back on the regular kind of farming that we do, which is pesticide oriented.
Either that or because I've seen a TV program, I think one of those BBC documentaries, fantastic, fascinating thing, where which talks about how insects are a very, very important source of protein in many
cultures.
Many poor South Asian countries. And they basically harvest the insects wild. And as pesticides become endemic, these guys are the guys who are going to pay for it.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's a sobering thought. Yeah.
However, people always have to do some sort of kida. See what I did there? With these things, right?
Yeah, I mean, some insects may be edible regardless of their toxicity. In the Carnia region of Italy, some moths are eaten by children despite their potential toxicity. The moths are known to produce hydrogen cyanide precursors in both larvae and adults. However, the adult moths contain cyanogenic chemicals in extremely low quantities along with high concentrations of sugar, making the moth a convenient supplementary source of sugar during the early summer. The moths are very common and easy to catch by hand, and the low cyanogenic content makes the moth a minimally risky seasonal delicacy.
Oh, so these are like a delicacy in Italy I'm guessing among children. And my mom wouldn't even let me eat roadside vada pav because I could get jaundice. We truly had sheltered upbringings.
All this is fine, but why do we have to eat bugs? I mean, we have loads of pretty decent regular fruits, don't we?
Spoken like a coastal elite.
I mean, yeah, it is true. We do have a lot of regular food, but it's
basically unsustainable.
Yeah, in the 21st century, we have a serious food security problem. I mean, the majority of the planet, like 30% of the planet, is covered by farmland, and the amount of food that it produces is very minuscule compared to the burgeoning population of the world. So with this massive food security problem, insects produce like a very, very strong source of nutrition, which is sustainable. They're green, they're nutritious. It could help people out of poverty. And, well, for people who are willing to do the farming of these insects, you could bag yourself like a $4.32 million bounty, because the European Commission is offering a very generous price to the group that develops the best idea for making insects a popular food. So, I mean, if you are able to, like you said, wasabi flies or chocolate-covered caterpillars, I guess, if you could do something like that, you would pretty much be pocketing a decent 4 million.
I went to Chhattisgarh a long time ago, and they make this pretty awesome ant chutney. At least that's what they told me.
Yes.
So I didn't know it was ant chutney. It's very sour, if I remember right. And they told me it's entirely made out of red ants. That's entirely mortar and pestle.
Chhattisgarh and parts of Bihar as well. I've heard of this actually.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird foods in India. Listicles may this will be one of the.
I went to Thailand and they were selling these grasshoppers, and I chickened out, man. I was all.
You chickened out literally because you
I
have eaten chicken
out.
after that.
I went and ate chicken. And I'm so ashamed to say that I went to Thailand and I was so sort of revolted by all this. There's another place where it was selling some pig head curry. You know, like generally one little pigs, like, as if you can imagine Pamela Anderson in a pool and poking her head out. It's like, except the Pamela Anderson is the pig, and it's like
that was
poking his head out.
That was a very specific reference.
So,
which is what I mean. A lot of guys who are like if you take people who are into food engineering and stuff like that, they are all for this technology. But the biggest problem, and it's the most obvious problem also to everyone, is that basically people find insects gross.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest problem for adoption unless people are taking it up. And one of the simpler solutions for all of this is actually one thing called which is basically grinding these things up into unrecognizable forms and giving it. So one of the most popular forms of insects getting into the regular food supply is creating flour out of crickets. So crickets are protein and flour is basically that. So grinding up a bunch of crickets and producing flour is actually very common in a lot of countries now, and they're actually pushing that as a form of flour, which is highly proteinaceous and very easy to make.
Yeah. But it will be very, very difficult to sell to people who are reversed. And the other thing is this, okay? Maybe there is something in evolution that makes sense why we find insects so revolting. Because we don't like, human beings don't like bitter things. Because bitter things are usually poisonous.
Yeah.
So over a period of time, we've grown to dislike that taste. So it makes us throw up. And that's body's defense for poison. So perhaps there is something about insects. Maybe as humans evolved, they must have found that most creepy crawly things usually hurt you. So stay far away from them, and maybe there's some such evolutionary explanation as well.
But then there is also the problem with the other side of the argument being that we have ventured so far away from being from our natural states. The amount of the number of people that are filling up the world, and the number of the way we are consuming food, at the rate at which we are consuming food, I think there needs to be some unnatural form of food coming in, which might be bugs, and I mean that is natural as well. I mean it's as natural as it gets, but maybe required for our source of protein. So Chuck, despite my better judgment, would you like to end this with a pun run?
Why not?
Here we go.
Sorry about that. Okay, which insect does both marijuana and alcohol? Grasshopper. Next, if Amir Khan were to make a movie on a 60s British band, what would it be called? Dangle Beetle. Next, okay, if you score the internet for what type of pornographic website would you go to for looking up prostitutes specifically?
Porn Grub?
No, is Hornet. Not proud of that one. I'm not proud of that one. Which is the loudest insect in India, a Bhayanak moth. and finally, which song Bhayanak moth likes to sing? We will rock you. We will bowl weevils.
Oh, we will. Oh my God.
Yes. Okay. Naren, you look bright. Actually, you look like a guy who has the answer to the question. So I'm sure you are dying to say something.
Yeah. So, what do you call an insect which sits silently and bores everyone for 5 days and then vanishes? A test cricket.
We are for the first time seeing interest coming from the other side of the table. Our usually quiet and reserved producer Naveen, who usually has his head in a puke bag, suddenly has a question. Do you have a question for us, Naveen?
Yes, guys. What do you call an insect that touches larvae inappropriately.
Go on.
I'm trying to picture.
Yes, an insect that touches larvae inappropriately is a centipedo.
And an insect that gets unnecessarily emotional is also called a centipede. So
Yes.
on that,
Yes, Chuck, yes.
on that note,
On that grubby note.
on that nat, lots of protein.
Of course.
So it turns out insects do produce a fair amount of gas after all. Thanks guys for sticking around. You can subscribe to Simblified on iTunes, on Pocket Casts and all the other apps on Android, as well as Audio Boom. And check us out on Facebook, and you can ping us on at Shriketh, at Shenoy N, and at Chuck_Gopal in no particular order.
And so if you want to hear us do more episodes on the fly and continue to bug you a lot more,
Oh, nice.
please come back and listen to future episodes of Simplified. Right
And
here.
that's a wrap. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
This is an IVM production. If you like listening to this show and would like to listen to other such shows, check out My Neighbor Zuckerberg, a show about India's hottest new startups, where they talk to the startup founders who talk about their journey and where they're heading. And you could catch all of these podcasts on Audio Boom, SoundCloud, and your favorite podcast app. Also, you can check out IVM's newest app, which is out on your Play Store. So check it out.